we finally got our hands on Sony's brand new cinema line, the Sony FX2.
Yeah, and we figured we'd put it to the test, so we went out to Iron Tiger Gym in Cape Town. We filmed a Muay Thai training session, so lots of movement, a bit of action, that kind of thing. Figured we'd put the camera through its paces and tell you guys what it's all about.
All right, so this is quite an interesting camera from Sony. Obviously, we know the FX3 and the FX30, and obviously looking at the body, it's pretty much identical to the body, except for one big thing, and that is this interesting viewfinder.
Yeah.
So, you know, you can flip it up, and yeah, that's pretty much where this camera is going to be aimed at. You know, it's going to be aimed at someone that's sort of a hardcore videographer, but maybe someone that still wants to do some stills with like a cinema hybrid camera, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, so definitely leaning more to the cinema side of things. So like on the body, very similar to what we have in the FX3 and the FX30, you have your 1/4-inch threads everywhere for mounting options, record buttons in different locations on the front and over here. They still insist on doing the weird joystick at the top, which I don't like. Just put it on the back where it's supposed to be, Sony, please. Zoom control, you know, that you have, or if you have your PTZ lenses, which is very nice. Rotatable LCD, and of course, because it is a cinema line body, you have a built-in fan on this unit. So never going to worry about overheating or anything like that. Nice deep grip, all in all, good looking camera. One dual slot, so as they normally do with their CF Express Type A and SD, and then one dedicated SD slot on this. In terms of the body, the ergonomics, I like it. I think it's solid. I think it's got a nice grip, definitely better than what we had on the FX30 and the FX3. For me, a successful body design.
Okay, so that's the obvious thing with this camera, is that it has the cinema body and a lot of cool customizable buttons. But more importantly, obviously for most people that are buying this range, what specs does it have? And to sum it up, not to run it through too quickly, but it's basically an A7 IV.
Yeah.
Right? We've got the same sensor as the A7 IV, but the processor on it is a little bit different. You know, we have the Sony AI processor, so your autofocus is going to be far superior in this model, especially when it comes to tracking faces or maybe animals, for example. Interestingly enough, the dual base ISO of this is a bit different.
Yeah.
It's 800 and 4000. So in the gym, as we said, we were shooting quite low light actually. And we were shooting fair amount of it was on a 4000 ISO. The images were still very clean, but yeah, it was challenging conditions.
Yeah, so as you rightly said, very much an A7 IV in this body, which also unfortunately means it has the limitations of the A7 IV. So what you have in here is your camera is going to natively do 4K 30. If you want to bump it up to 4K 60, you're going to have a crop, unfortunately, which in 2025, I'm just going to say it, shouldn't be the case anymore, especially not if they could put a new processor in to allow for the AI functionality. They could have bumped it up, you know, and taken out the crop in the 4K 60. If you want to go to 120, that is limited to Full HD. Still a clean image, but unfortunately Full HD at 120 only. You know, so I would have liked to see maybe 4K crop 120, you know, 4K 60 full frame readout. Everything else on here, very, very similar. You have the enhanced autofocus, but we'll get to that in a second. Other than that, internally, very much an A7 IV muted into the cinema line body.
Yeah, rightly said, pretty much muted into the cinema body. So you have a little tele lamp in the front as well. And then more importantly, the fan slash heatsink. And where that's obviously going to help you is in those beefier 4K modes. Like we know with the A7 IV, with long format recording, you can sometimes run into some overheating issues, which this pretty much will solve.
Yeah.
So that is a great thing to have in this body. All right, now another big different thing with this camera is the obvious viewfinder on the back. And something that I noticed when we were shooting, as I was shooting video, my head was in a video space, I sort of noticed that the screen was going blank all the time, and for some reason I didn't sort of know what was happening. And then the obvious thing I remembered, there's a viewfinder that's poking out. So if you're holding the camera fairly close to your body, the sensor of the viewfinder is going to pick up and the screen is going to go off.
Yeah.
So we had to obviously just go into the menu and sort of switch that mode off. But that is something that's interesting of this viewfinder. Is it's kind of cool, but it's also a bit in the way.
Yeah, I feel like as somebody who never grew up shooting like traditional video cameras, if I can put it like that, never having had a viewfinder on my video rigs, I just kind of got in the way a little bit. I understand why they did it, and I see the use case for it. I understand in certain scenarios where the LCD is maybe not that usable, where you need that viewfinder, maybe extreme lighting conditions, that kind of thing, it could be handy. But I also think like in the modern world where we shoot mostly, you know, you've got external monitors hooked up, you have hoods on those, you know, you can have external viewfinders attached that are much bigger, much brighter than this. And I feel like they could have saved the money essentially by using the exact same body as the FX3, cut a couple of £1,000, because we're in South Africa, off this unit, okay, by taking the viewfinder out. That would have made the price more palatable, and I think a more usable camera overall, because you're going to rig this thing up, you know, and once you've rigged this, then where does the viewfinder fit in?
Yeah, that is a big problem, and I do agree with you with sort of cutting the viewfinder off, saving cost, because people buying this, especially in the cinema range, will rig it up.
Yeah, 100%.
Most of the people, and then unfortunately the viewfinder will not be used so much. All right, now the autofocus of this is obviously going to be a huge improvement, and you mentioned it earlier, but I do kind of just want to mention it again. This top button where you will select your focus box, it's kind of in a very sort of awkward space, especially if you're shooting from the back. Your thumb placement here for that would make a lot more sense. So that was something, especially if you come from a photography background, you'll find that very awkward to sort of manipulate your focus box or points with the top joystick. You know?
Yeah, so apart from that though, the autofocus on this, phenomenal. It's Sony's all-new AI autofocus system that we've seen in a bunch of their other cameras now, and it is probably tied with Canon for like the best autofocus out there. No two ways around it. It is super sticky. When it locks on, there is nothing better. You'll see in like the footage that we're showing, you know, if you locked onto a person and people are moving in front of them, or like the punching bag swinging back and forth in front of them, the camera doesn't care. It knows where that person's supposed to be. And the whole idea behind this AI autofocus system is that it essentially like outlines the human body kind of thing, and then it tries to predict where you're going to be in the frame, and it does it so well. It really is a phenomenal system, and the first FX camera to have that now, because the FX3 and 30 doesn't have it, and I think that is a worthy upgrade to go for. And I mean a worthy upgrade just on the A7 IV as a whole. You know, if you take that as the internal blueprint for this, that's a serious upgrade for filmmaking. Makes it super easy. Now, in terms of the footage out of this camera, we're showing it to you guys throughout here. It's exactly what you expect from Sony at this stage in the game. The footage is good, the low light performance is solid, the 4K is crisp, it's clean. When you are shooting 4K 60, yes, it crops in a little bit, but the footage is still good. There's plenty of detail to be had there. Obviously, in combination with the autofocus system, it is all round a really solid system. And obviously you're shooting in Sony's log profile, your standard S-Log, and it is easily editable. Like everybody knows exactly what you're gonna get when you walk into, well, pretty much any of the FX cameras.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe part of the problem of this camera for me, to be honest, because when I was shooting with it, it is a new camera, but it didn't feel like a new camera to me. And it had very similar specs to what we sort of know from Sony. It felt like a Sony, it handled like a Sony, but there's nothing exciting about this camera that makes me think like, oh wow, like this is worth that price tag that's on this camera. And to be honest, I think that's going to be the problem with most clients looking at this kind of camera, is they're going to see the price tag and they're going to think, which way am I going to go?
Yeah, I feel like Sony went and tried to, very rightly so, create a middle of the road FX camera. FX30 to get you started, FX3 is right at the top. You know, something in the middle kind of made sense. Did they nail it? In terms of the specs, maybe, maybe not. I do like the hybrid nature of it. The fact that you can get very usable stills out of this is very nice. The upgrade to the autofocus system is very nice. The lack of upgrade to the video functionality, though, I feel is a bit of a miss. And on that, I fully agree with you. Do I think including the Viewfinder is a hit? For me personally, no, but I do understand where some people could find that very useful in niche cases that could be worth it. Would it have made more sense to save the money by taking that Viewfinder away? Yeah, probably. For me, again, at least, I kind of think that would have made a bit more sense. Is it a good camera? Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, no two ways around it. It is a very solid, good camera. But I don't think there's enough new here to really make a punchy impact on the market. It just kind of fills the gap. And I think if we're gonna see new A7S 4 FX3 2 maybe later this year, early next year, I think that's gonna date this camera very quickly.